welcome, welcome. This is Dave Rogers with Meet the Author. And today I have Jaiden Baynes. Hi, Jaiden. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It's really nice to have a teenager author here in Canada. Jaiden, can you share a little bit about yourself and why did you write the book?
So I'm Jaiden Baynes. I'm a second-year computer science student at McMaster University and a new Microsoft employee as of a few weeks ago. So that's all exciting. Yeah, and I've already published a book called Enemies of Africa, and I have just published my second book, Manifest Destiny, going on sale July 1st. So look forward to that.
So in this book that you're writing, you just wrote, share, what's the key theme and what is one main takeaway from the book?
So one of the key themes in the book is humans' relationship with power and how it's extremely destructive to normal people in terms of the hierarchies and destructive institutions that are created as a result. So I've tried to take real world problems and kind of make them more exciting fantasy simplifications so that the audience can interact with them and maybe see some real world parallels in terms of the problems that the characters face and real world problems that very real people have to face.
Wow, that's fantastic. And what advice would you give to new authors or aspiring authors?
So my tip for aspiring authors would be the editing process is extremely important. So they should be ready to devote a lot of time to it and be ready to put their all into it, because after all, it's making sure that your product is as good as possible when it gets to the market and that you can put out the best piece of work that you can.
Fantastic. And if just say you had a magic wand and you could get this book into somebody's famous hands, who would you love to read this book and share a little bit of why?
If I could get this into someone famous's hands, I would probably have to say my professor, John Colarusso, who really got me into comparative mythology, which is a lot of this book. These two in particular are based on the Greek gods Zeus and Hera. So, and there are many other counterparts throughout mythology. So I want him to see, like, I can take his theoretical knowledge and apply it to a hopefully beneficial context in the form of this book.
Fantastic. So it's about Greek mythology that you've infused into the book?
Yes, Greek mythology and many other mythologies. So the fictional countries in the book are based on Russia, Italy, Germany, and the Mesopotamian empires. So Persia and the classical Mesopotamia. So the main purpose of the book in relating to the key theme of power is showing that these drastically different cultures have many different people, different religions, and all these other different ideas. But fundamentally, the problems of power and hierarchies and imperialism and warfare are fundamentally the same. It's not any racial problem or cultural problem. It's a fundamental institutional problem with the entire world. And so I integrate their mythologies, show the similarities and differences, and hopefully get people interested in comparative mythology, which is what my professor, John Colarusso, specializes in. The showing of how, for example, the similar stories of a thunder god versus a sea serpent. The main character, in fact, once again, to get the book back up, his name is Drakon of Chaos, as a reference to something called the Chaos Kampf, the dragon versus the thunder gods. So you have like Zeus versus Titan, and many others throughout mythology, and Tiamat versus Abzu. Humans, we have very like a collective cultural origin that's very important.
Wow, it sounds fantastic. What are one or two ways that people are going to be able to get a copy of your book?
So the book's ebook is actually on sale right now for pre-order. It comes out July 1st, so you can pre-order now or go to Amazon.com for the hardcover or softcover of the book that'll be available again on July 1st. You can go to BaymarPublishingBooks.com in order to get additional information about the release date and any other promotional material that might be of interest.
Fantastic. And what new projects are you exploring?
Well, since I finished the first book, I'm hard at work on the second and somewhat on the third. I've actually been getting distracted by the third a bit too much, where a lot of the themes of power and imperialism kind of expand from the first book. So the first book is really like laying the groundwork. So if any, the earlier medieval equivalent of modern problems, and they kind of blossom into their current horrific forms. So yeah, hard at work on 2 and 3, making them hopefully as good as possible a conclusion to this saga.
Jaiden, what inspires you to write?
I'd say my wide net of interests. I kind of, as I study things in real life, a way that I like to prepare and memorize is to actually write. So in school, I would learn something about science, and hey, there's a science fiction story I churn out to remember things. This book is largely made up of my historical and mythological studies, where it's seeing the trends of history and like the evils of empires throughout history, kind of recreating that in the form of a fictional novel where people will look and say, wow, this is such a horrible place, when that place is the earth in the past. So taking the horrors of war from the past, especially, like one of my favorite studies for history is kind of the corruption of history and misrememberings, again, for the sake of power. Large imperial powers will try to glorify their past horrors and misdeeds. I believe it was Prince Andrew recently who said that, was praising the British Empire and saying, oh, Africa would be better off if we brought imperialism back there. So kind of this whitewashing and how people justify these atrocities. I wanted to say, okay, even from the perspective of the one doing these atrocities, like the book is from the perspective of these kings and queens doing such horrors, they still come out looking pretty badly. So kind of communicating this message, I wanted to get that out there and make people think, like, you know, if a historical event has genocide after it, do we really want to be justifying that or lessening the extremities of what happened to those people? So yeah, that's the history aspect, and again the mythological aspect, with the main characters being based on partially Zeus and Hera from Greek mythology. I also wanted to expand on differences in cultures throughout times. For example, Zeus and Hera were originally seen as like gods that deserve to be worshipped. Meanwhile, in modern times, I was actually talking with my father about this recently, about how he told me a lot of Greek myths as a child, and going back and rereading them, his censorship abilities are amazing. So Zeus being a murder psychopathic molester is no longer quite in fashion anymore. So I wanted to show the transformation of the concept of a hero and how we've improved over time, and we can look back and say, oh, that's not so great. But also to highlight some current problems with like a celebrity culture and this worship of certain people in our modern Western culture and media, and how similar damaging effects can be replicated in modern times, like what to look out for and hopefully what to avoid in the future.
If you could have an impact on young people today, what would be your call to action?
My call to action would be to look at the real world, and if there was anything in the book that disgusted you, frankly, or made you feel upset, try to see and make sure that it's not replicated anywhere, because a lot of I'm sure the legal department of my publisher wouldn't want me saying this, but a lot of the quotes and things villains in the book say are sourced from real people. There are real things. I don't know why I have this fascination with just horrible people who go out and say things about like racist quotes, imperialist quotes, justifying things. I just like have a document where I write them down, and so people might be reading the book and say, wow, no one would ever say this. This is such an exaggeration, you know, like a supervillain from an old cartoon. Keep an ear open, see what those in power are saying about you, because I was just actually rewatching an old interview about it was during COVID, and people were discussing that they shouldn't do the stimulus because they wanted to starve common people like dogs, because it's a good motivator to keep everyone working. And, you know, if that was in a fantasy book, people would say, whoa, that's too extreme. But people are saying that. Keep an ear open, hear what your supposed betters are saying about you, because the hierarchies of power and imperialism are very much alive today. And we should be aware, make others aware, and maybe put our heads together on what we can do to stop it in the future.
Wow, Jaiden, that sounds fantastic. You've done some great research, and this really sounds like a wonderful perspective on what's going on in today's world from a perspective of a young person. I'm very inspired, and again, you're going to be doing a launch of the book. You want to just share a little bit about the launch and what will be part of you're doing the pre-sales now, and it's going to be in July 1st?
Yes, July 1st.
All right. So put it up one more time and invite anybody to come join, take a look at the book, read the book, and perhaps give you some feedback. What type of feedback might benefit you as you move on to number 2 and number 3?
The feedback has shown that the desired effect is being achieved. So, for example, one key repetitive form of feedback I've been getting is the violence in the book, the fighting. I've been told that, why is it so, like, it's not just cool, it's showing the hurt and the pain that the people feel. And that's intentional, because war and violence isn't a game. One of the reviewers for the book, one of the people who was beta reading, told me that don't people want to read to have an escapist fantasy and get away from the horrors of the world? But I don't think we should be, got shot, there's a chance you'd be in pieces. So I wanted to kind of bring that forward and maybe shock the audience, get them to think that maybe all this war and exciting violence in movies isn't what it's like in real life. And maybe we should stop glorifying it. That when someone gets punched, that hurts. We should have empathy rather than just loving the cool factor. So that's one of the key feedback. Another key piece of feedback was in regards to the magic system. It's not called magic, it's called power. And one of the things in the book with power is it's absurd. It's like a maddening degree of a normal person without power compared to someone with. One of my early reviewers was telling me, like, isn't it crazy that people with power can do these ridiculous godlike feats? It's crazy. The balance is out of control. But that's supposed to emulate. Think of real life. There are people with no power compared to, I don't know, Elon Musk or Bill Gates or those billionaires. Like billion people, can you even imagine $1 billion compared to what people are being paid in Africa or Asia and the rest of the third world? So it's that contrast, like those in power versus those who aren't. I know it was supposed to be a critique, but that kind of feedback shows that the book is working. It's like, this is crazy. It's fundamentally unfair how this fair power system works. Like repeatedly, when power is explained in the book, it's supposed to sound like, oh yeah, it just works like this. Don't question it. But when you see it in effect and how it clearly benefits some more than others, it's supposed to get people to think like, I don't know, is this power system as fair as everyone thinks it is? So
wow, it sounds like you've really tapped onto some really energetically charged topics that I'm really thrilled to hear you talk about it, and then being able to storytell in a way that sounds very intriguing and engaging. Let's bring this session to a close. And what's one last message that you would like to have our listeners take away today?
I would like everyone to, well, thank you for watching, of course. And also, I would just say that politics are dumb, it's dumb, but very, very important. And so I'm not trying to push anything. I'm just getting people to think, because I don't think anyone should be taking their perspective on the world from other people. Like everyone is an intelligent human being. We should be deciding for ourselves. So I would just say, take this book. You might hate it, you might love it, but I hope that you think about it, think about everything in the world. And, if we are all a bit more critical, maybe we can put our heads together and solve these big issues that everyone has their own take on. Like, what's your take on it? And hopefully the cooler heads will prevail and everything will work out.
Well, thank you very much, Jaiden. I really appreciate your time today. Congratulations on your second book and the launch on July 1st. All the best.